Hey guys, what's going on? This is Kyle here. I just want to make just a video of a fantasy draft that I want to do, and that is WWE are going to have a draft November 11th, which I've made a video a few weeks ago, which I think is just completely pointless when every star from SmackDown we get to see on Raw and vice versa, and all the stars are competing for the opposite shows, championships, and title belts. So I really see the draft this year being really insignificant and not important. And it's also being rumored that WWE is taking this into consideration and wondering themselves if they are going to even do a draft. But as of right now, the draft is still greenlit to go June 11th in the next 2.5 to 3 weeks from now. Anyway, so this is just my fantasy draft of people who I would like to see on which show. Should WWE go ahead with the draft June 11th? So this is just my picks. So for Raw, I'll start with Raw. With Raw, I've got Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes, I think, has done a fantastic job in being built up on SmackDown for the last 2 years. His growing has been a bit painful for me, but I think he's come up and grown up a lot now on the SmackDown show, so I put him on Raw with the Intercontinental Championship, bring the IC title back on Raw. That's where it belongs. My second pick for Raw will also be Daniel Bryan. I picked Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan is also another guy who's improved a lot in the last 6 months. He's already feuding with, CM Punk, and he's a SmackDown wrestler, but he has a shot at the WWE Championship, so I put him on Raw on the draft as well. Let's see. Another guy I like to see in the draft, hopefully he returns in time, and that is Christian. I would like to see Christian on the Raw brand. I think Christian is probably one of the most unutilized, talented veterans that they have in the WWE. I like to see that and see him get into a feud with CM Punk or John Cena. A main event feud, I like to see Christian get into. Let's see. Another pick I would like to pick for Raw would be Mark Henry. I think Mark Henry's on injury or something right now. I don't know. But I'd like to see Mark Henry on Raw and just be the destructive monster on Raw. Although people may say, well, you have that in Lord Tenzai. But should I say a destructive monster that's more recognizable in people who and a person that people are already used to, because Lord Tenzai it still needs time to grow on people. So a destructive monster, big guy monster that's already recognizable to the fans, I like to see on the Raw brand. And Big Show, even though I don't like Big Show, but I could see Big Show too being picked on the Raw show as being the big destructive monster fight giant. That's the Big Show. This next one here is kind of iffy. Some of you guys may agree with me or not, and that is Randy Orton. I'd kind of like to see Randy Orton back on Raw. Right now, he's the #1 guy on SmackDown, but I don't know. I just think SmackDown in the past, year or so that Randy's been there, Randy really hasn't done anything too significant on SmackDown. The only good thing that came out of SmackDown from Randy to me was his feud with Christian. I enjoyed, and his feud with Wade Barrett was pretty decent, along with Cody Rhodes. But besides Christian, for me personally, Randy Orton really hasn't done anything on SmackDown for me. So I like to see Randy back on Raw. And some of you guys may say, well, Randy Orton is like the main #1 key talent on SmackDown. You pull him away from SmackDown, then SmackDown's not going to have any major key players. Well, I'll get to that theory in a second, or point in a second. Now for SmackDown, the #1 pick I will pick for SmackDown is The Miz. The Miz, I made a video a few days ago talking about how The Miz has fallen from grace and how he's just completely jobbing right now and at the bottom of the barrel. Miz needs to get off of Raw so bad, so fast, it's not funny. I would pick The Miz as the #1 draft pick for SmackDown. I think Miz being on SmackDown, he won't get lost in the shuffle because the roster isn't as strong as the Raw brand. He'll get repackaged, get refreshed, climb back up to that main event stats. I think SmackDown could do Miz wonders. And Miz has been in the WWE for, probably just as long as CM Punk has, 6 or 7 years. And honestly, I don't think Miz has ever been on the SmackDown show. He's always been on ECW for like 2.5 to 3 years, and then they put him on Raw. So that'll also be a bit of something fresh too, because Miz, like I said, Miz has never been on the SmackDown brand, an official SmackDown roster on the SmackDown roster. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think so. I think Miz has spent all his entire career in ECW and Raw. So I put Miz. Another wrestler I will put on SmackDown is Zack Ryder. I think Zack Ryder too is another guy who's become irrelevant, lost in the shuffle on Raw. He was on SmackDown originally, but then they put him back on Raw. So, well, not originally, but he was on SmackDown. As Teddy Theodore Long's personal assistant, but then they put him back on Raw, which just So I put Zack Ryder back on SmackDown. I'd also pick Jack Swagger and Dolph Ziggler on SmackDown. Now, with Ziggler, it was a bit iffy because it's like, we want to keep Ziggler such a solid upper mid-card wrestler. You want to keep him on Raw. But I think, the exchange for Dolph Ziggler and Cody Rhodes, which I think both wrestlers are probably about the same rank in terms of upper mid-card wrestlers. I think the exchange you would get between Ziggler and Rhodes in the draft, going, SmackDown or Raw, I think that would be an even exchange. I think that would be fair. So for Cody Rhodes, you get Dolph Ziggler on SmackDown. And like I said, Dolph Ziggler has done a fantastic job last year, but the past few months of this year, after Royal Rumble, he's been lost in the shuffle as well. I think he needs a fresh start like The Miz. Like I said, most of the relevant things he's done so far in his career has been on SmackDown. So I think SmackDown will do some good. And then this one pick here, he's not back yet because, like Christian, is on injury list, and that's Wade Barrett. Now, I could see Wade Barrett on Raw, but considering that he was just starting to get some heat behind him, some steam, but it kind of got sidetracked because of his injury, I keep Wade Barrett on SmackDown. And, so I keep Wade Barrett on SmackDown. Now, the point that I was making early in this video when I said I'd like to see Randy Orton back on Raw, and how I say some of you guys may say, well, why take Randy off of SmackDown? They'll hurt the roster power on the SmackDown. Well, I think like this here, and even if I put Christian, I think if you put Christian and Randy on the Raw brand, you can put those guys in so many feuds with Punk, Cena, vice versa. Well, not Randy and Cena, but like Christian and Cena and things like that. I think if you put Randy and Christian on Raw, it would force, the guys like The Miz, Wade Barrett, Dolph Ziggler, Jack Swagger, guys who have, been on the Raw brand and kind of, overshadowed and overlooked. It'll, give them a chance to be repackaged, refreshed, and step up, to and build these guys up to main event level on the SmackDown show, along with Alberto Del Rio, who now just mysteriously just popped on the SmackDown brand, even though he was on Raw, but now he's just back on SmackDown now, which I think is good anyway, because I think he's been lost in the shuffle on Raw ever since they drafted him to there. So, with Del Rio and then Sheamus as the world champion, like I said, I think, having Randy and Christian off of SmackDown, put them on Raw, it'll force, Miz, Ziggler, Wade Barrett, he should have returned and be on SmackDown, and Ziggler and Swagger and Dolph Ziggler. It'll force these guys, like I said, to be refreshed, be repackaged, and bump them up, and help bump them up and build them to, main event stat, where they can have these with Del Rio and Ziggler, not Ziggler, but Sheamus. I think it'll help build those guys up, So that's just my opinion on that. So this is my little fantasy draft. Like I said, it's really kind of hard to do, especially when, like I said, these wrestlers we see on both shows and crisscross all the time. So it's like, what's the point of having a draft anyway? But this is just my fantasy draft and people who I like to see. So let me know what you guys think about my list. Did you like it? Didn't like it? Who would you like to see on what brand, what show? Leave your opinions or your list in the comment box below. Subscribe. Peace.